Welcome to the Coop with Kit. My name is Kit Hoover, and I have been lucky enough in my 30 years in this business to interview some of the most iconic, badass women out there. We all know that girlfriends give the best advice, and they're all coming to the Coop. We're talking career, marriage, kids, sex, aging, all of it. I truly believe we are just hitting our stride. All right, my chickens, let's get into it. Woo! Today in the Coop, in honor of Breast Cancer Awareness Month, we're going to do a very special edition of the Coop. And first, I want to bring in my Coop producer, Harper McDonald, to ride alongside me
Good
today.
morning, Kit.
Good morning, Miss Harper.
morning.
How much do we hate breast cancer?
We fucking hate breast
Hate
cancer.
it. And you're allowed to use the F-bomb.
Yeah. So both of our moms have had breast cancer.
Honey and Bug.
Honey and Bug. My mom is Honey. Honey battled this 5 years ago. She had a triple negative and had a single mastectomy following radiation, now has lymphedema. She is strong as anyone I know, but God, that was brutal. And what about Bug?
Bug was 35 years ago, y'all, diagnosed with breast cancer. The way they butchered her body, we had no information at the time. You kind of hit it, how far we've come. We are so grateful for Bug and Honey and what they've taught us about survival and being a fighter. And then Harper, 5 of my bridesmaids, our Coop business producer, Casey Ladd, a survivor.
We're not going to talk about ourselves much longer because who cares?
Yeah.
But you and I both have dense breasts. We have talked about this. It is not 40% of women.
It's 1,000%
it's
of
like
women.
100 billion% of what every woman I know has dense breasts. And there is so much more that we need to be doing. We're going to talk about this today.
Can we just double back to we both have had biopsies? Why did no one tell us how absolutely horrific? Y'all did not warn me.
They suck ass.
They suck ass.
Hurt.
And Harper last week was running around. You kind of had a little bit of we can call it a scare or a hiccup dealing. Last week I went in, I thought I was getting an MRI. It was compare and contrast mammogram.
You kept telling me you were getting an MRI.
I was like, where's the tube? Yeah, I don't know what's happening.
You said there was a dye and my boobs were in I don't even know what happened.
But apparently now, guys.
But we are going to know.
We are going to know. We are going to gather information today, and we're going to go back and look because we've had so many incredible women on the Coop. But the 3 that talked about breast cancer, Katie Couric, Elin Hilderbrand, and Melissa Etheridge, we want to share part of those interviews. Then we had the idea to bring in my friend, Dr. Kristi Funk. Guys, if the name sounds familiar, Angelina Jolie and Sheryl Crow's doctor. She's world-renowned breast specialist. She's incredible. Let's start with her, Harper, and let's start with debunking some of these myths that we all hear, and frankly, I believed a lot of them. Here's Dr. Funk. Hi, how are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Thank you for taking time to do this, Dr. Funk. I really appreciate it.
Of course.
Tell me the myths, Dr. Funk, surrounding breast cancer, because I think we've heard them all.
We really have heard them all. I'll tell you the 2 most common ones are underwire bras. And this is not a bad thought, ladies, because it has aluminum. Maybe you're getting some transcutaneous or through the skin absorption of this heavy metal that's bad, and it's right there in the breast area. Or I've heard that maybe the wire creates some lymphatic compression, so you get lymph buildup, and lymph, of course, is ridding your body of toxins, so then they just extrude into the breast tissue. So it's not ludicrous or crazy that people would think that bras are contributing to breast cancer. Totally wrong. There's no science to support it. Neither of those things happens. Ironically, there's a condition called lymphedema that sometimes happens where the breast gets really thickened and boggy after breast cancer surgery and then radiation. And guess how we treat it? With compression. So it just doesn't make sense. It doesn't bear out in the science. It's been really looked at upside down and sideways. So
great news
I don't
on
care.
that.
If you want the girls to hang low, let them hang.
Let them hang.
Whatever you want to do.
What about deodorant? I remember years ago, I'm like, I'm not wearing deodorant. That is a shave. And then I put that on. And that was good for nobody, Dr. Funk.
Right, I can smell you from here. So the reality there is also really an intelligent hypothesis, especially with micro nicks from shaving that you don't even see. And then you lather on something that may have parabens or aluminum salt. And here, again, is the thing. First of all, you'll be hard-pressed to find a deodorant with parabens. Like that alarm sounded so loudly that all the companies pulled paraben out. Second of all, the aluminum thing, it just doesn't happen. So there's been a couple of papers that say, well, look, breast cancer is more common in the upper outer quadrant of the breast. The proximity of the armpit is right there. So maybe there's something to this deodorant connection, but there have been several very large, well done studies, one particularly out of Seattle, that just debunks this. It doesn't happen. And there's no cause and effect that's been proven.
Any other myths we need to debunk?
I need to debunk a couple of myths because it's going to make you so happy. The first one, for my coffee lovers out there, coffee is actually cancer protective.
Tell me everything. You're speaking my language.
Yeah. Now, we don't want to be lathering in the whipped cream topping, right? That stuff that people add to their coffee is definitely not helping you. But the coffee itself is actually filled with antioxidants that are protective. And the data shows shocking decreases in breast cancer risk for those who consume, it's a lot, 5 cups of coffee a day.
Well, I'm right there.
Whether it's the methylxanthines, we're not quite sure, but the antioxidants in coffee are absolutely helpful, not harmful. Another myth is the cell phone. Okay. You tuck that little guy in your bra and you're wondering if there's EMFs and ionizing radiation. So ionizing radiation comes from medical x-rays. So yes, even from mammograms, from CT scans, PET scans, and we get ionizing radiation from the sun. But the cell phone emits, so far, non-ionizing radiation. And the EMFs, the little magnetic forces that are the particles that are emitted, are too wimpy to cause DNA damage because we don't have good analysis of the newer and newer technology, right? We're up to 5G. So yeah. I wouldn't be putting cell phones to your ear, like the cordless, and using your AirPods is always the smart way to go. But you can relax. Like, cell phones don't cause breast cancer. Right. I've heard that a lot. What's
crazy, Dr. Funk, is I feel like I see you every year, and yet every year more and more of my friends are diagnosed. It's like the craziest phenomenon. I hate this disease.
I know. It's getting more prevalent. I mean, the ACS, American Cancer Society, just released their new stats October 1st. We're getting 1% increase per year, year after year. But get this, under 50, it's 1.4% year after year. The numbers are higher and they're getting younger faster.
God.
And it's not genetics and it's not fate, because genetics don't change, right? They're inherited or they're not. So that's not the reason for the increase. What I like about the messaging is that there's so much control there. The answer is our choices. Some of it is out of our control in terms of environmental toxicities, like the ubiquity of just everything from microplastics to phthalates, you name it. People want it to be something that's totally, quote unquote, not their fault. Like, yes, they need to know better, because when you know better, you do better and actually change your health destiny. I mean, you're like the picture perfect, don't drink excessive alcohol, ideal body weight. You exercise like a fiend and make it fun, which decreases emotional stress. And there's so many things, but the food and the weight and the exercise and the alcohol are at the heart of it. And I think people want it to be the underwire bra or the deodorant. It's not that easy to fix, but it is fixable by your choices. And I love that about the reality.
The other thing, Dr. Funk, that I'm hearing over and over, I know I have them. Every friend I know has dense breast. What is the deal with dense breast? And the deal with a mammogram and an ultrasound don't really work for us. And then we have to go on to the MRI. I just got a compare and contrast mammogram last week. What do we need to do with dense breast, and why don't we have insurance that covers it?
Okay, so what is breast density, right? It's the ratio of the white splotchiness to the darkness on a mammogram. The whiteness is the stuff that actually makes breast cancer. It's the milk-producing globules and the little ducts that carry the milk out, as opposed to connective tissue and fat. So the denser your breast, number one, the more tissue you have that actually makes cancer. And number two, because that tissue looks white on mammo and cancer is white on mammo, now we're looking for a snowball in a snowstorm. So we miss breast cancer, depending on your level of density, between 25 and 40% of the time in dense breasts. So you're more likely to make cancer and we're more likely to miss it.
Wow.
This is the problem. So a couple of solutions. Number one, if possible, get a 3D mammogram. It's a little bit better at seeing through the storm. In point of fact, it'll have about 17% fewer callbacks for false positives, like, we think we see something, but it's nothing, and a 34% increase in cancer detection. So it's definitely better, but the miss rate is still too high. So
So,
what
okay,
do we
that's
want
for
to add
the
on?
3D mammogram. Okay.
Number 2, if possible, if you still menstruate, get your mammogram the week after your period. A little hard to time that for some people, but that's when your breasts are actually a little bit less dense, so the view will be better, and you are less tender, so the squish can be harder without so much
Wow.
discomfort. And the squishing actually pushes tissue away from itself, so we get a better view. If you're one of these people who's super sensitive with the mammo, pop 3 Advil a half hour before you get it so you can tolerate. The compression really matters to get the best view.
But if you've got dense breast, is it better just to go to the MRI or the compare contrast? Is it better just to jump to that?
No. So,
Okay.
couple of reasons. One, just insurance wise, there is a protocol you have to follow. So, you need the mammogram to prove the density, and then it needs to be within 12 months before insurance is going to approve additional imaging. Second of all, like it or not, mammograms have been around now for 40 plus years. We're really good at reading them, and every radiologist basically can do it. It's very cheap, it's fast, and it is our gold standard. And this is the study for which we have data to show that mammography does save lives. The rest of it has its pros and cons. So the easiest thing to add on if you have dense breasts, I should back up and say we grade density A through D. So you need
Okay.
to find out, and now thanks to the new federal law that went into effect last month, every woman in the United States, right? Yay. We in California have had this since 2013, but now the whole country, every woman getting a mammogram must receive a letter, but it's a template letter, and it goes something like this. Hey, good news, your mammo was negative, but your breasts are dense, and that means we could miss a cancer. Good luck.
Yeah.
So the
I got
letter's
one.
very
Yeah. We've all received them here at the Coop. Yeah.
So that letter, while informative, is not very instructive on what to do next and what is or isn't covered. So a couple of things. If you have dense breasts, I always advise a whole breast screening ultrasound. Ultrasound sees things differently. The breast tissue is white and the cancers are black, so they pop out on ultrasound. However, the one thing that mammo's very good at, that my hands, anyone's hands, an ultrasound and an MRI will be inferior at, is detecting 100% curable stage 0 ductal carcinoma in situ. So the earliest form of breast cancer is really only caught as little specks of white on a mammogram. There are rare exceptions, but they're rare. So we don't want to miss out on the opportunity to find something when it was so curable and no chemo was needed, right? Hence the mammo. Ultrasound will complement the mammogram and find an additional 6 or 7 cancers that the mammo missed for every 1,000 people. MRI, which really is our best look at breast tissue right now, is very good at finding cancer. However, it requires the injection of gadolinium, which is a heavy metal, which some papers have shown that it pools in brain tissue and liver as a heavy metal, potentially forever. So
Oh,
this
good
isn't
Lord.
innocent by any means.
Yeah.
And it's about 45 minutes in a clanging tube that can create a lot of anxiety and causes claustrophobia.
Yeah. No one warned me about the clanging. I mean, you'd think there's something they could do about that, Doc. Well, yes. Okay. So
I
the
know.
MRI is a little more extreme, but sort of shows everything.
It shows everything better. However, then it too has false positives, and the callback on a positive MRI is a much bigger deal because now we do more mammograms, ultrasounds, and if you can't find what MRI saw and it's suspicious enough, you'll need an MRI guided biopsy, which no one in the history of ever has said that was a piece of cake. Like,
Yeah.
it's a medieval torture thing to get an MRI guided biopsy. It's not gotten easier in the 20 plus years we've been doing them. So
Even hearing you, Dr. Funk, if I can jump in, it's like you're one of the foremost leading specialists in this. It's still baffling to me just hearing all the hoops we as women have to jump through to get the proper diagnosis. I was hoping we would have found something else. What are the advancements we're making? Is there any hope on the horizon?
the hope on the horizon is in better imaging. For example, there's contrast enhanced mammography that has been around for a while. They perfected the technology and blended it with the 3D mammo. This also requires dye, but it's iodine based, which is,
I just got that last week. It wasn't bad at all.
oh, good. Yeah. The downside of that, as you noticed, is you do need the injections. It's longer than a mammogram. There's slightly more radiation involved, and a small percentage of people will have a contrast reaction. And Because of the dye injection, the mammogram image is able to look at blood flow patterns, and all of the normal level of blood flow kind of purposefully fades to black on the image. And then just boom, if there's something with too much blood flow, which cancer is one of those things, it'll pop out like a star in a night sky. So it's really fabulous at identifying cancer. However, it too is victim of false positives. So then hunting down something that may be nothing is its own problematic issue. To people who can't get this special mammogram, we're still pretty well served by the combination of a 3D, even a 2D, plus the screening ultrasound. We should find about 95% of the cancers with the combo.
Okay.
And if you are particularly high risk, so you carry a gene mutation, you yourself have had a breast cancer, particularly one that was missed by mammogram, if you've had some marker lesions called like atypia or lobular carcinoma in situ, if your calculated risk exceeds 20%, we do advise the MRI. I individualize the frequency of that MRI to make sense for your risk. If you're just at the cusp of 20%, I'm not getting one every year. We're going to do every 3 or every 5.
What's the benchmark that women need to start doing this? What age are we recommending?
So if you are at normal risk for breast cancer, we start at age 40. I advise you not to stop or skip years.
Dr. Funk, there's been some great advancements. Let's jump ahead to if you are diagnosed. One of my girlfriends just did a double mastectomy. You can save the nipple now, apparently. What's going on with saving the nipple? This made me so happy because my mom, bless her heart, back 35 years ago, like it just, I look at what they did to her body, and I was so happy to see my girlfriend's fabulous new tatas.
Oh, I'm glad to hear that for her. And yes, we are absolutely able to save the nipple in the majority of cases. So sometimes that sinister little cancer is like smack up right up against the nipple or even in that nipple tissue. Obviously, we can't save that. And then for other women who are large, we call it ptosis, but it means droopy and floppy. We need some extra steps because the nipples are simply too low and there's too much skin to accommodate the final reconstruction. So there are some nuances to who can and can't save the nipple or how many operations you might have to do to accomplish that, which may or may not be worth it to you. But I love the final aesthetic of keeping your own nipple.
Yes.
So many women get that silver lining, that upside, and they're like, it's me, I'm perky again. Just like when I was like pregnant or nursing, it has that fullness and that perkiness. It's really quite beautiful. And it eases the emotional transition. So you still feel like you inside your own skin after mastectomy.
We have our business partner here at the Coop, and happens to be my best friend, Casey. For her breast cancer, tamoxifen really took away her sex drive. Is there any other options besides tamoxifen? And now a word from our sponsors. Have you heard of Olakai? When I kick off my ridiculous high heels for Access Hollywood, Olakai is my go-to footwear. I found them when I was searching for the best flip-flop that also gives me the greatest support for my high arches, which has been impossible for me to find until now. Olakai is a super cool brand known for their anywhere aloha spirit and Hawaiian roots. They make shoes for every type of occasion. And now this includes the most comfortable and stylish pickleball and golf shoes. Hello. My favorite part is that the heels naturally go down to make every one of their shoes a slide. How genius is that? I promise you will love anything you get from them. And for Coop listeners, free shipping on any order at olakai.com. That's OLUKAI.com. Use code COOP and get your Olakais delivered ASAP to enjoy the summer. Mahalo. Coop Chicks, I am so fired up. I have discovered the most fabulous new female-owned botanical skincare line out of Nashville, Tennessee called Imogene & Co. for company. Using skincare products from natural ingredients is more important to me than ever. And Dr. Allison Brennan, the founder of Imogene & Co., is a trained pharmacist and has formulated products that I have never experienced before. They smell amazing, and her products cleanse cleanse, nourish, and hydrate. I seriously have noticed an incredible difference in my skin since using Imogene & Co. I am currently obsessed with their Glow Vitamin C Serum. This is the most potent and natural vitamin C serum I've ever used. It helps build collagen and bye-bye crow's feet. Equally, I really love their Revitalize face oil. I slather it on to start and to end my day. Give Imogene & Co. a try. Go to imogeneandco.com. That's EMOGENEAND co.com and use Coop 20 for 20% off. Ladies, are you like me and have looked everywhere to find your favorite white tee and tank? Well, look no further. I have found them at Erin Gray. This will be your new go-to favorite white t-shirt brand. Custom designed in my hometown of ATL, Atlanta, and made of pure Pima cotton from Peru. You will never take it off. This pre-wash and pre-shrunk material is exclusive only to Erin Gray and no annoying tags. How great is that? I am so happy and I feel so good every time I put these on. I have finally found my go-to tee. Erin Gray is 100% women-owned and operated and gives 10% of profits back to cancer research every year. Go to eringraydesign.com. That's ERINGRAY design.com. Use code COOP20 for 20% off. And now, back to the Coop.
Ooh, so this gets nuanced. I really individualize the recommendations. When people are miserable on tamoxifen, there is a whole other category of drugs called aromatase inhibitors. But when you're on tamoxifen, it's because your ovaries still work. So there's an option to chemically or surgically shut down the ovary so you're not competing against your own body's production of estrogen, and you can take a different kind of pill that blocks a potential cancer recurrence from using estrogen to feed and fuel itself. That's kind of not a very attractive alternative for Casey because it's also just more drugs with similar or worse side effects possibly, right? When people really don't want to take tamoxifen, this is definitely going off the beaten path of standard care. However, there are a number of foods and lifestyle behaviors that we know naturally decrease estrogen in your body and or compete at the receptor level with estrogen. Studies have shown that, for example, soy, which gets such a bad rap, but it's an anti-breast cancer superfood. I have all of my patients trying to consume 2 to 3 servings of soy daily. Now, organic, non-GMO soy in the usual forms of fermented like tempeh, miso, tamari, or the more common tofu, soy milk, edamame soybeans. These foods have phytoestrogens in them, but they actually activate beta receptors for estrogen, and your cancer loves alpha. So when beta is activated, which soy does, it shuts alpha down. You see, so it sort of acts like tamoxifen in that way. Studies have shown that women with breast cancer who are high versus low soy consumers have between 25 and 60% less recurrence and death. However, It works synergistically alongside tamoxifen. You'll even get a bigger reduction if you're on the tamoxifen. So
I'm getting me some edamame stat.
Edamame stat. Here's the other thing. Some people don't realize that there's a plethora of awesome things that you can be doing to mitigate the side effects of tamoxifen that are safe, that aren't antagonizing the job of tamoxifen. So some of that is diet. For sure, a plant-based, plant-forward diet is going to stave off the hot flashes, some night sweats, sometimes mood instability. For vaginal dryness and painful sex, you can safely use vaginal estrogen. There's no significant systemic absorption. All the medical oncologists now are backing off of any worries about that. So if that's a main concern, those drugs, something like Vagifem, which are tablets that you put up into the vagina twice a week, safe and fine and very effective.
Fabulous. What about hormone replacement therapy? This is a buzzword for everybody around my age. What is the correlation with breast cancer? Can you go on it if you are a survivor?
This is controversial and nuanced and needs to be individualized to the cancer that you had, how many years ago you went through treatment, what treatments you did ultimately do. So there are definitely cancer survivors who can go on full-on hormone replacement therapy as if that cancer never happened.
Gotcha.
There are others that can kind of pick and choose safer subsets of the world of hormone replacement. We can use like the vaginal estrogen, the other we should shy away from. And then there are still others who it's so risky for you to be back on HRT. I really don't want you on it. But again, it's an individualized conversation and there are a lot of variables. So I can't give you the soundbite, easy response.
What about, and I saw you post about this, what's the deal with IUDs? All of a sudden, the internet's going bananas saying there's a correlation with cancer.
The correlation with cancer and IUDs or oral birth control, for that matter, is real, but it's so small that the benefits almost always exceed the risks. So the big headline here is that progesterone IUDs caused a 40% increase in breast cancer risk for those using them versus not, in a big Danish study that followed over 78,000 women with IUDs and 78,000 without for up to, it was 6.8 years average. So this was a well done, large volume study, and the 40% sounds so huge until you put it in the context of what's called absolute risk. Like, what does this actually mean? And the answer is 1.4 in 1,000 users.
Interesting. Okay.
So back up, keep your IUD in. You're much more likely to have an unwanted pregnancy.
I got to tell you, my phone was blowing up. No one else going to talk to you. Like, ask her about that. My daughter's on, or whatever it was. I'm like, okay, there you go, everybody.
Yeah. So for daughters on birth control, there's so many birth control studies and they all show a tiny, tiny uptick. And it's always somewhere between 20 and 30% in using oral contraceptives. Why do I call a number like 30% tiny? Let's say you're 20 something with oral birth control. What is the risk of getting breast cancer in your 20s? It's not 1 in 8. That is a lifetime average. It is 1 in 1,344 20-somethings that will get breast cancer in that decade of her 20s. You're on birth control, 30% increase, 1.3 out of every 1,344 20-somethings will get breast cancer from the birth control. It's essentially a non-issue. And once you go off the birth control, by the way, there's a rapid decline. And at 10 years, it's like you were never on them.
Wow. All right. What are the questions that women need to be asking?
You need to be asking, am I at risk for breast cancer, even though there's no cancer in my whole family? And the answer is a resounding, very loud yes. While it is a big deal to have an inherited gene mutation such as BRCA or CHEK2 that accounts for 5 to 10% of all breast cancer, the other 90 to 95%, ladies, you have so much more control over this disease than you probably think or could ever imagine. And that control is within your choices. Every time you eat or don't eat, drink or don't drink, move or don't move, even think or don't think, forgive and love or don't forgive and love. All of these things create a cell microenvironment inside of you that is screaming pro-cancer or anti-cancer. So the healthiest, most anti-cancer lifestyle would be to eat a predominantly or entirely whole food, plant-based diet, exercising regularly, maintaining ideal body weight, minimizing or avoiding alcohol, judicious use, individualized use of hormone replacement therapy. Honestly, for the vast majority, I think benefit outweighs risk when it comes to hormone replacement. I think it's mostly beneficial for the majority. But there's environmental toxicities that are so ubiquitous, but you can control what you can. Look in your cabinets, check out your makeups, lotions, perfumes, detergents, soaps, what is in there. So check it out and make sure it's as clean as it can be. Are you getting good restorative sleep at night? Are you managing your stress in an intentional way? If you need to meditate, pray, forgive others, spend time socializing. And finally, here's a surprise one for a lot of people: fasting. It's not just what you eat, but it's when you eat and how long you don't eat.
Is this the intermittent fasting?
Intermittent fasting. A paper in 2015 showed that patients with breast cancer who fast 13 hours nightly have 36% less recurrence.
Wow.
Longer fasting is even better when it comes to true cell rejuvenation and repair, and a fancy process called autophagy, autoself-phage eat. You get into this mode, but it takes 72 hours of not eating. You don't get it with the overnight fast.
You know what I love, Dr. Funk? It's so great. You're giving everybody tangible things that they can control. This is why I love, like, take control of your own body. And you write about all of this so beautifully. I just think
Thank you.
that's wonderful. On the hopeful side, what is going on with the mortality rate relating to breast cancer?
Mortality from breast cancer has gone solidly down 1.3% per year, year after year. Thanks
I
to
want
early
more.
detection.
Bring it down.
I know. Bring it down, but bring it to zero. And the people in control of bringing it to zero are the people that are the women on this planet. We need to take control and ownership of our own health destiny. And I will tell you something. So far, with very minimal exception, and there are still exceptions to this, when people are quote unquote doing everything right and they still get cancer, it is generally a very non-aggressive subtype. So don't ever think, oh, I spent my whole life being such a good girl for nothing. No, it wasn't for nothing. The cancer you made is very wimpy. It's never going to take you down. And it's because of all of your healthy behaviors and attitudes and eating that this cancer didn't quite get the weaponry it needed to do a true assault on your longevity. It's an inconvenience. It's frightening. It's a wake up call for like, what else? Maybe there's a job we need to change or something. I always try to learn the lessons with my patients that cancer is trying to teach, because whatever lesson you learn will keep that sucker from ever coming back again.
This is what all of our guests, this is what Melissa Etheridge talked about. This is what Elin Hilderbrand talked about. This is what Katie Couric talked about. Fabulous how you just said that right there. Okay, words of wisdom for any of our fabulous warriors that are fighting this, Dr. Funk. And now a word from our sponsors. Hello, Coop listeners. This episode of The Coop is sponsored by BetterHelp. BetterHelp is an online therapy app. That's BetterHelp, BetterHelp. So if you're thinking of starting therapy, give BetterHelp a try. I got to tell you, there have been big moments in my life where therapy was really essential in my growth. And what's amazing about BetterHelp is that it's entirely online and designed to be convenient and flexible to suit your schedule. We've all got crazy schedules with work, kids, life, etc. Wouldn't it be amazing to get your therapy when you want it without ever leaving your house? These are licensed therapists, and all you have to do is fill out a brief questionnaire to get matched with the right therapist. Give online therapy a try at betterhelp.com/thecoop and get on your way to being your best self. All Coop listeners will get 10% off their first month. Again, it's betterhelp.com/thecoop, betterhelp.com/thecoop, THECOOP. Here's to BetterHelp. Hey everyone, I'm a jeans girl, and if you're like me, you need to know about Blue Delta jeans. Blue Deltas are custom fit for your body type. You send in your measurements and they custom fit them to you. I've truly never had jeans that fit me this perfectly, and honestly, it's been a game changer. Their easy measurement process to get your custom fit and their unique hand-sewn jeans are the best you can get. You will not believe how great they feel. Blue Delta jeans should be your go-to. I'm completely obsessed with their incredible custom vintage jeans that come in straight and flare styles. Trust me, you will live in them. Go to bluedeltajeans.com and enter the code COOP20 for 20% off your new perfect jeans. And now, back to the Coop.
You have control over this disease. It is not controlling you. You are not a woman who had breast cancer or who has breast cancer. You are a daughter, a mother, a friend, a lover. You are an important, wonderful, beautiful individual. So embrace your life and all of the things that you are set on this earth to accomplish with purpose and passion. And that cancer is just a little thing that lights your fire.
God, that's why I love Dr. Funk. Okay, everybody that comes in the coop, we ask them one word to describe where you are in your life right now.
Oh gosh. Enlightenment.
Oh,
Enlightenment.
elaborate. Tell me.
I am so hungry for knowledge that I can disseminate to others. I can't get enough of it. Everything from learning more about microplastics to the microcosm inside of you. I just love science and how it impacts choice so that I can help empower women to have even more control over their health destiny. And I've culminated all of my wisdom in a summit. It's called the Cancer Kicking Summit. Just look it up at pinklotus.com/summit. But there's 2 in May 2025 coming to
Great.
Palm Springs, California, and Hot Springs, Arkansas.
First of all, thank you, my friend. I'm proud to call you a friend. I'm so in awe of everything that you do. I'm coming to Palm Springs, by the way.
Yay.
And thank you for taking the time and for talking about this. I really appreciate you.
Thanks, Kit. I love you.
Love you, Dr. Funk. Okay, so starting off, y'all, we're going to dive into 3 of our interviews with incredible women who have bravely fought and beaten breast cancer. Harper, where should we start?
We're going to start with Melissa, who also had a very public journey with cancer, and the huge moment.
Ugh.
What was the moment?
When she showed up at the Grammys back in 2004. Do y'all remember that? By the way, when this happened, Harper, think about it. Nobody was as outspoken about breast cancer or showing up with a bald head yet.
No.
It was so empowering. We asked her about that moment. I didn't even know she was battling at the time. Here's what she said.
Well, I had been diagnosed in October of 2004, and then I started chemotherapy treatment in November. So I was doing chemo November and December. It was long. It was horrible. It was stage 3. It was just hideous. And I was like, I can't do this anymore. And I finally stopped my chemo treatments because I was like, my chemo's going to kill me. I didn't have any cancer in me. It was just the prophylactic chemo, and it was just really horrible. So the day that I'd said that, the next day, I got a call from the producers of the Grammys who said they're doing a tribute to Janis Joplin, and they wanted me to do it. And it was like in 2 weeks. And I was like, okay, well, tell them I'm going to be bald because I don't have any hair. And I might be a little weak because I had to start radiation. So the morning of the show, I went and got radiation.
What?
And yeah, and then I went to the rehearsal and I rehearsed. And then I got up and did it with Joss Stone. And I just didn't want anyone to laugh at me because of my head. And then I
no
didn't
one was
realize, I know, nobody was laughing at all. And I tell you, it's still to this day, people come up to me and say things about that performance and how they saw it or their mother. And a couple years ago, I was in Barnes & Noble and I was headed up to the desk that they help you, find the book at. And there was a man talking to someone, and right next to him was a young teenager, probably 12, 13 years old, in a wheelchair, and she had bald hair. And I feel so for especially a young person going through it. And I just leaned down and I said, hey, I hope, I don't know what I said, but the father turned and looked and saw me. And he said, oh, hey, Celia, that's the woman from the video I showed you.
Harper, I just still can't believe stage 3 cancer. And that she was up on stage
Belting.
like Janis Joplin.
God, do you remember that scream? I mean, she screamed in that particular performance. It was like a roar.
Riveting.
And it was unbelievable that
Powerful.
she had just done radiation that morning. For any woman who's gone through breast cancer and has experienced radiation, I mean, your body is rocked, your soul is rocked. She came through, and I just remember she changed the world that day in terms of what it is to be out with something that maybe has been secret, and that has obviously always been Melissa Etheridge's just power.
That's who she is
That's who she
at the
is.
core.
Mhm.
But going back to even you want to look how when my mom was diagnosed, you
Mhm.
kind of hid, you didn't tell many people, you kind of hid. If you went out, you'd wear a wig. If you lost your hair, like that was such a defining moment
It really
that
was.
has helped going forward. And look at everybody with our generation now.
Right.
Great
And
job,
we were
Melissa.
fascinated by, so what were the tools that she used, right? So obviously someone like her who has the drive and the soul and the power that she does, we wanted to know how she figured out how to get through that moment.
Well, Harper, here's what she said.
I would say most of it is in your mind. Most of it you can do in your mind. And it's about changing your mind and whatever it takes. I found plant medicine to be extremely helpful. I didn't really smoke cannabis before I was diagnosed. I smoked a little bit. I was starting to kind of smoke it just like months before, but not regularly like I do now. And also there's psilocybin.
Yeah.
Now, what these things do, it's not. This is not a cure. This is an alignment for a person. It's my belief, and again, always different. Everybody's different, but my belief that cancer and all degenerative diseases, which are just dis-ease, that all of them stem from us being out of alignment with ourselves, us being away from ourselves, us not doing what we know we want to do, and what is going to bring that light, what's going to make that light shine in us, because that's the only thing. We can't save anybody, we can't change anybody. All we can do is clear the crap out so we can shine our light that's in all of us. And that's where plant medicine comes in. It helps us. It helps us get out of our left brain, which is, I got to do this, which is all the future
Yeah.
worry and the past regret. That's your left brain. It quiets your left brain so that your intuitive brain that knows you are not your body.
Yeah.
You are a soul that you just want to be connected with.
I think that's so beautiful. Melissa, anybody, any of our listeners, if they get the diagnosis, they just got it, let's just say,
Mm-hmm.
what would you say to them?
Well, I would say what the woman that did my biopsy said. She was the radiologist, I think, the one that looks, and she was a friend, but she wasn't a good friend. I just had known her. She helped us with our couple babies. So she said, Melissa, well, usually we wait, but I know what this is. I've seen enough of this, and mine was really thick and hard and everything, and she knew. And she said, I just want to tell you, you're going to be fine. You are going to be fine. And she then unbuttoned her blouse and showed her double mastectomy that I didn't know that she had.
Yeah.
And she goes, this is the worst that can happen. And she goes, and I'm fine. And I started my journey with that. If you start your journey with,
like that.
okay, I'm going to be
I'm
fine.
gonna
This
be
is not,
fine.
I'm not dying tomorrow. This is a sign. My body is giving me a sign. Hey, it's time to change. And I had enough doctors tell me sort of offhandedly that I always go, there's nobody knows why, but people that make a change are the ones that survive.
I love that she loves the weed.
Yeah, you know what? We were fascinated then. She discovered it later on in her life. And cancer for her was this massive turning point in her life, just spiritually and physically, and just the way that she sort of approached the world, which, it's hard to imagine why someone like Melissa would sort of need that. But she, as she spoke about it, was this moment that really shifted her. Maybe toward the weed, maybe
Yeah.
toward some other things to sort of get her through it, but mostly in the mindset and getting more connected with her body.
It's fascinating as you were just speaking right there. I think about all of my friends that have battled this, and Harper, it does change you. It changes how you want to approach your life.
Mm-hmm.
To Melissa's point, changes that maybe you want to make. It can be a wake up call. And I remember when my mom had it, she always says, cancer has eyes. It can feel your energy. This is Bug's thought. And Bug was like, you just have to remain positive, and you got a lot of life to live. And I think that's something that cancer can't take away from you.
Well, and I think Bug, as well as Melissa Etheridge, share just the belief of staying in the light, living so positively. I mean, your mom bug is just like, she exudes light
Yeah.
and positivity. And Melissa does too from the whole interview, but certainly when she was talking about cancer. Okay. Switching gears to our next incredible woman. Yeah.
Okay, let's go to Elin Hilderbrand. So for those of you who don't know Ellen, she has written how many best-selling books?
Oh, 25.
25,000.
No.
You know her. She's the one that writes all the beautiful books out of Nantucket. She's actually making a pivot right now in her life, and a new novel is going to be coming her way.
Oh, right. And her The Perfect Couple.
The
just
Perfect Couple. You
which
guys just
everybody
watched it on
watched. Everyone
Netflix.
watched.
Nicole Kidman, Liev Schreiber. Unbelievable for her that was one of her books that finally got made into a movie, hitting her stride. Her breast cancer journey was so interesting too. Similar to Melissa, she had so much going on in her life at that moment and yet had to step up big.
She did. She also speaks about that time as when she finally came to her fans and let them know what she was going through. It was a pivotal moment in terms of the connection that she had with her fans. And she tells this most unbelievable story when she had just come out with a novel. She had just had a double mastectomy and
just gotten divorced.
Had just gotten divorced at the same time, but was not going to miss her book event.
Sounds like Melissa going up on stage. Here's a little bit of Ellen's interview.
I found out right before my novel, The Matchmaker, came out. And I had my double mastectomy, I think 3 days after the book came out. And that was just the timing that had to happen. Because that was the timing, I told all of my readers. And that's really when my readers and I
bonded.
Became best friends.
Yeah.
They showed up in the biggest way. I mean, letters, and people sent me pocket gardens and Christmas ornaments and hand knit scarves. And of course, my community here in Nantucket. And I had just gone through a divorce, but I mean, my ex-husband was there for me. I didn't lift a finger. So Nantucket as a community is always really good with that. I had a double mastectomy. And then 12 days later, I flew to Chicago to do 2 events. And the reason I did them is because I didn't want to say I was too sick to go, because I was like mentally like, I'm going to go regardless. So I went, and I had drains in, and I was on Oxy, and I was just an absolute mess. And I did the first event, which I barely remember. And then the second event was a brown bag luncheon. And there were these 2 women in the front, and neither of them had any hair. And my eyes kept drawing to them. And then when they came through my line, they said, we've both had double mastectomies. Together, we've been through 36 rounds of chemo and 64 rounds of radiation. And we came today to tell you that you're going to be fine. And I thought to myself, okay, these women are sicker than I am. And they made it to my book signing, and they were both smiling. And so, in some way they passed me a baton, Kit, because they were like, this is what we do. Well, people who survive this disease, then we go on and we tell other people, we pass on the hope. And cancer, I mean, obviously takes something away, but it gives you something back. And that is this, this community of women, and then this new appreciation, of course, for your own life.
All of my girlfriends that have battled this. Lisa, who's going through it right now. Boner, aka Jean.
What's up, Boner?
Casey Ladd, of course, our business partner who knows all about this. But the thing for Ellen, again, that I think is so fascinating is her being vulnerable and having the strength and power to show up, then ignited kind of a movement for more women, especially coming to back her. Our sisterhood is unbelievable.
Yes, I can envision those 2 women coming up to her and literally saying to her, you're going to be fine.
You're going to be fine.
I mean, the same thing happened with Melissa. She just said, you're going to be fine. I mean, that is just, it's so powerful coming from someone who's in it, who's gone through it, or on the other side of it, any version of that state, of those stages. And that brings tears to my eyes. You're going to be fine. And she is, and God, is that woman thriving.
Also, to your point on that, breast cancer waits for nobody. Look what was going on in Melissa's life and Ellen's life. I mean, I can't, the double mastectomy, into divorce, into all of this, and have to go on your book tour. It's like, it sort of always hits at a time, usually a pivotal time in people's life. It seems to happen.
Yeah.
So, wow.
And the other thing that Ellen had shared, but we didn't include here, is, remember you asked her about if she has a tattoo.
Oh yeah, tattoo. What did she get on her neck?
She has the breast cancer ribbon on the back of her neck with #MamaStrong.
Oh,
and remember, she said she wanted to put it on the back of her neck because she just wanted to control who could see it. And I think it was her daughter who she didn't want to see, because she didn't want her daughter to get any funny ideas.
Great.
But it's such a powerful thing because, again, it's for her, and it's the strength that she was able to muster and push through. It's totally extraordinary. Okay, who do we have next?
Okay. Here we go, guys. We've got the legend that is Katie Couric. This woman is just incredible. She's had to deal with more of her share of cancer on so many facets of her life, from her late husband to her sister. She herself battling breast cancer. She's become such an advocate, and she is lobbying at Capitol Hill. She is going to get some laws changed. She is all action all the time. When we spoke to Katie, she had just come back from Capitol Hill fighting for all of us. Here's some of that interview.
I'm really trying to actually increase awareness that 42% of women 40 and over have dense breasts. And dense breasts, it makes it harder to determine on a mammogram if you have an abnormality, because the density is white, the abnormality is white. As my breast radiologist says, it's like looking for a snowball against a field of snow. So women need to advocate for themselves. Now, people have to be informed if they have dense breasts, but also what that means. So they may need additional screening. I'm hoping to get a law passed that women with dense breasts, I'm working with a couple of people on Capitol Hill, and John says, "Who do you think you are, Nancy Pelosi?" And I'm like, well, yes, I do.
So Nance, tell us what you're doing.
We're trying to get companies to cover additional screening for women with dense breasts, because too often those tumors or abnormalities or, whatever can be missed by simply getting a mammogram. But understanding your risk and understanding your breast density, your family history, and making sure you do get mammograms and letting your technician know that your breasts are dense, that's an important step. But we need to get it covered, and people shouldn't have to be fighting for early detection of breast cancer.
Thank you for that.
And now, like Olivia Munn, who's been diagnosed with breast cancer, my friend Hannah Storm just came forward about her breast cancer diagnosis. We all have to really encourage women, and we have to fight. Right now, I'm developing a documentary on the disparities in medical research for males versus females. The fact that the government only required women to be involved in clinical trials in 1993. It's outrageous.
Baffling.
And there's so many diseases and illnesses that are specific to women that have not gotten enough funding. And it's unconscionable. And it's starting to change, but we want to shine a light on these disparities and make women mad so they'll demand better.
So Katie, if anybody can get this done, I'm just going to say it. My money and my boobs are on you. Harper, our boobs are on Katie. No pressure.
I swear, but if there was anyone I want my boobs on, not literally, it would be Katie.
Oh, that's great. She's spectacular.
She's just gonna make it happen.
Yeah.
I mean, she's literally been fighting for the prevention of cancers for as long as I remember. And on colon cancer alone, she's literally changed
the game. It's called the Katie effect.
It's called the Katie effect.
Harper, what a way to end this episode. I do feel with people like Dr. Kristi Funk and everybody on the forefront, not only enlightened, I feel hopeful. I really do.
I do too. The survival rate for women with breast cancer is shot up considerably, and it is because of early detection. It is because of all these things that we're learning. It's because of all the ways that we can mitigate what is going on. We're not quite at the place where it can be gone, but there's so much that we can do. And I feel so hopeful, from not just from Dr. Funk, but from those three unbelievable women
incredible
that we've interviewed in the Coop.
We're so lucky to do this podcast. I just want you to know that Harper and I pinch each other all the time about this. We hope you got a lot out of this. Keep sending us all your questions, everything you want to know. We just love you, all of our little Coopers. So
go get your mammogram.
Get your mammogram.
Get your ultrasound.
Get your ultrasound. Get the dye thing.
And the biggest thing that my mom, that Honey, told me, and I know Bug has told you the same, is women have to advocate for themselves.
Yes.
It is the most important thing. So make sure you do it regularly and advocate if you feel you need that secondary screening. Again, thank you, Katie.
Yeah, and thank you, Honey and Bug, our mamas. All right, love you all, Coop listeners. See you next time. Thank you for joining us, my chickens. If you like this episode, please give us a 5-star rating, drop in a great review, and tag us at The Coop with Kit Hoover. As well, you can follow us on social media at The Coop with Kit Hoover for behind-the-scenes content and updates. We will see you next time in The Coop. And remember, as my mom Bug always says, life is not a dress rehearsal. Make it count. Today's episode was produced by me, Kit Hoover, and Harper McDonald. Business development by Casey Ladd, and a special thank you to all of our sponsors.